Walk into any store lately and something feels different, doesn't it? Prices higher, certain items harder to find. But here's what most people don't realize. Some folks saw this coming and they've been preparing. Not the crazy survivalist types, just regular people making smart moves. And I've figured out their strategy. People are accumulating coffee, olive oil, pet food, even smartphones before prices soar or shelves become empty. Are you missing out? This isn't just panic purchasing, it's silent stockpiling. And here's why it's important. Inflation, tariffs, and supply chain fractures are already present. Stay tuned because I'm exposing the 15 everyday necessities people are collecting right now before others discover them. Hey everyone, I've been researching thoroughly through Reddit discussions, Facebook prepper communities, and recent analyses from MarketWatch, Business Insider, and even Hacker News. What I discovered is truly alarming. Nearly 1 in 5 Americans are now silently accumulating items, not for entertainment, but from anxiety. Increasing prices, fresh tariff warnings, and unpredictable shortages have driven ordinary people to behave like preppers. And you must understand what they're purchasing. In this video, I'm going to guide you through 15 common household products people are secretly accumulating, from pantry foods to tech gadgets. And some of them will completely surprise you. Stay until the conclusion because the final few items aren't just scarce, they're already disappearing. And share in the comments, have you observed a shortage or sudden price increase in your location? Let's exchange observations. You're not hallucinating. Item 1, coffee. Do you ever wake up to a cup of coffee and consider, this could be the last reasonably priced one I ever consume? Well, remember that thought. Over the recent months, consumers immediately increased purchases of instant coffee by 21% after reports of approaching tariffs reached the news. Yes, instant coffee. People are purchasing it in large quantities. Why? Because on August 1st, 2025, a substantial 50% tariff on Brazilian imports becomes active. Roughly 1/3 of U.S. coffee originates from Brazil. Brazilian producers are panicking. Traders are accelerating shipments into U.S. harbors before that deadline. Meanwhile, coffee futures costs already increased twofold last year after harsh droughts in Brazil and Vietnam decreased global production. Currently, Arabica coffee has reached near record peaks. Some specialists claim it's the most severe spike since the 1970s. So, here's the surprise. Even though coffee costs are up 9 to 12% in 2025, people still decline to abandon it. Demand is inflexible. We require our caffeine dose. That's why many are silently accumulating now. Picture entering your kitchen to discover the coffee section half vacant. That panic purchasing? It's already occurring. And if you're a coffee enthusiast, you might want to acquire a few additional packages. So yes, accumulating coffee isn't paranoia. It's intelligent preparation before the cost increases even further. Better prepared than decaffeinated, correct? Item 2, olive oil. Picture this. You're drizzling olive oil onto your salad and it's suddenly $10 per bottle. Sound insane? Bear with me. Here's the catch. Approximately 95% of olive oil consumed in the U.S. is imported. The U.S. scarcely produces olive oil, just 40,000 acres versus the EU's nearly 10 million. Now, fresh tariffs are approaching. The existing 10% tariff might leap to 30% as early as August 1st. That indicates American consumers might encounter mid-single-digit to double-digit cost increases on olive oil, making your regular bottle cost considerably more. So, people are silently accumulating olive oil now before costs explode. Here's a startling statistic. Spain exported over 113 million metric tons of olive oil to the U.S. in 2024, valued at over $1 billion, a 58% increase from 2023. Spanish authorities warn their sector is anxious. Some report a 38% increase in exports during early 2025, with purchasers loading up ahead of tariffs. Why should you be concerned? Because this isn't merely food, it's kitchen treasure, and shortages or cost spikes could occur soon. So, if you've been conserving that bottle sitting in the pantry, perhaps acquire a few more. In summary, olive oil is vulnerable. Imported, exposed, and confronting steep tariff shockwaves. Obtain it now. Item 3, toilet paper. Let's be frank. When was the previous time you saw an empty toilet paper section and didn't experience that minor panic attack? Toilet paper might appear dull, but in times of uncertainty, it becomes valuable. During the 2020 pandemic, it was the initial item to disappear from shelves, and now it's silently returning in prepper shopping carts. According to a recent survey by Worldwide, sales of toilet paper and tissues have risen by over 12 year over year in Q2 2025. That's not coincidental. In inflation, rumors of another wave of supply chain disruptions and climate-related manufacturing problems are all driving people to silently restock before shelves become empty again. Here's something remarkable. The U.S. imports approximately 10% of its tissue products, primarily from Canada and Latin America. But increasing fuel expenses and transport delays have made even that 10% unreliable. Reddit discussions like "Our Preppers" and "Our Frugal" have erupted with comments like, "I just purchased a year's supply of TP, not taking chances again." Even large retailers like Costco have reported temporary restrictions on popular brands, according to members in multiple states. That's not coincidental. So yeah, toilet paper isn't merely a household product. It's a representation of how rapidly normal life can feel vulnerable. And honestly, nobody wants to be trapped without it again. Lesson learned: better to possess it and not require it than the reverse. Item 4. Laundry detergent and liquid soap. You might not consider laundry detergent significant, but guess what? People are silently accumulating it, and rapidly. Here's the situation. In recent months, sales of laundry detergent and liquid soap have increased by over 25% in some major U.S. cities. Why? It's not merely about maintaining cleanliness. It's about staying prepared. According to MarketWatch and Business Insider, Americans are acquiring these basics in bulk. Inflation's driving prices upward, and with fresh tariffs on cleaning imports from nations like China and the EU, the expense of household necessities could increase another 15 to 20% by year's end. And here's the alarming aspect. The U.S. imports nearly 40% of its cleaning products. That indicates if anything disrupts that flow, tariffs, conflict, a shipping crisis, shelves could become empty rapidly. Over on Reddit and Facebook, people are sharing images of shelves emptied of Tide, Dawn, and even environmentally friendly brands. The prepping community is calling it the soap surge. Sounds crazy, right? But it's genuine and considerate. No one wants to be that individual washing clothes with vinegar and optimism during a crisis. So, if you notice a sale at your local retailer, it might be wise to acquire a few additional bottles. Not to panic, but to prepare. Because clean clothing isn't merely a luxury, it's survival. Item 5. Pet food and supplies. Picture you're conversing with a friend. You mention that, "Hey, did you realize nearly half of Americans are accumulating necessities right now?" And boom, that's your hook. You'd be amazed. A recent creditcards.com study reveals that about 42% of Americans are actively accumulating goods or planning to do so. That includes everyday pet products. Here's the surprise. The U.S. pet market is flourishing. In 2023 alone, households spent $45.5 billion on pet food, a massive 17% increase over 2022. Meanwhile, the overall pet industry reached $152 billion, up from $147 billion the previous year. People adore their furry companions, and they're budgeting accordingly. Now, why are people silently storing pet food and supplies? Supply chain concerns, inflation, fear that costs will increase, or items disappear. Even though pet food inflation has decreased to near zero in early 2025, veterinary care and other services are still rising sharply, up over 4.6% year over year. That encourages owners to accumulate when possible before costs rise again. Here's the surprising reality. Low-income households actually increased pet food spending the most. Households earning under $30,000 spent 45.7% more in 2020 on pet food than the previous year. That's enormous. So you can envision millions of households silently filling pantries with kibble, treats, litter, supplements, all ahead of potential cost increases. It's like preparing for a pet-friendly apocalypse, but warmer and with more chew toys. Item 6, toothpaste, shampoo, and hygiene items. Have you ever observed how the hygiene section is beginning to appear a little emptier than normal? It's not your imagination. People are silently accumulating toothpaste, shampoo, deodorant, even soap. And it's occurring faster than you realize. Here's the situation. A recent MarketWatch analysis showed a sharp increase in bulk purchases of imported hygiene products like Colgate and Head and Shoulders. Why? Because costs are expected to increase due to fresh tariff proposals and rising import expenses. In fact, Business Insider confirmed that many Americans are accumulating now to avoid paying nearly 30% more by year's end. Consider that. These aren't luxury products. They're daily necessities, the items you depend on to begin your day and feel human. Picture waking up one day and discovering your favorite toothpaste has doubled in cost or just disappeared from the shelf. It's already occurring in some locations. On Reddit's prepping forums, users are sharing advice for how to store extra hygiene items long-term. One shocking post. A user revealed their local store restricted toothpaste purchases to just 2 per customer. 2. This isn't panic purchasing, it's silent preparation, a shift from just enough to what if. Because when something as basic as shampoo becomes a luxury, people notice. So, do you possess a spare set of hygiene supplies? Because currently, many people are ensuring they do. And honestly, perhaps they're onto something. Item 7. Canned goods, rice, and dry staples. Let's discuss food security because currently shelves are emptying of canned goods, rice, beans, and dry staples faster than normal. And most people aren't even noticing. Why? Simple. These are the most affordable, longest lasting, and easiest to store foods during uncertain times. According to a MarketWatch survey, sales of non-perishable pantry items have increased significantly over the last 90 days. In April, Business Insider reported that 1 in 5 households in the U.S. have begun or expanded a prepper pantry. That's not just survivalists anymore. It's everyday families. The reason? Food inflation is still rising, especially for basic staples. Rice costs, for example, have increased over 14% globally in the past year. And extreme weather is worsening things. And here's a statistic that might shock you. According to the UN's FAO, global grain reserves are now at their lowest level since 2015. Less supply equals higher costs, so smarter shoppers are accumulating now. People on Facebook prepping groups are even exchanging lists of the best value canned foods like black beans, sardines, and chili because they last 2 to 5 years, sometimes more. So the next time you're in the grocery section, perhaps grab that extra bag of rice or case of canned soup because if costs keep rising, your pantry might just be the smartest investment you make this year. Item 8. Frozen meat and long life cheese. Okay, let's be realistic. Meat costs are becoming extreme, and people are silently freezing more than just chicken nuggets. Frozen meats, blocks of waxed cheese, and even shelf-stable meats like jerky and canned Spam are disappearing from shelves. According to the USDA, beef costs have risen over 8.6% just this year, and poultry is not far behind. It's no surprise people are purchasing in bulk and placing it all into deep freezers. But here's the surprise. Some intelligent stockpilers are also acquiring waxed cheese wheels. Yes, those traditional red-wrapped ones. Why? Because they don't require refrigeration and can last months, even years when stored correctly. Reddit's Our Preppers forum is filled with advice on aging cheese at home like it's treasure. And there's a deeper reason behind this silent rush: emotional comfort. A study from Psychology Today demonstrated that during times of crisis, people accumulate comfort foods to feel more in control. So yeah, storing meat and cheese isn't just survival, it's mental health. Some are even preparing DIY mini meat storage, yep, real thing, to keep their protein supplies safe in case of power failures or supply shocks. So, if your freezer is appearing a little empty, it might be time to reconsider that, because once the next wave of shortages or cost increases hits, that steak in your freezer could be worth more than dinner. It could be peace of mind. Item 9. Bottled water and electrolyte drinks. Let me ask you something. If your tap suddenly stopped functioning right now, how long would your drinking water last? That question is hitting a little too close to home for millions of people across the U.S. There's been a silent but growing trend. People are accumulating bottled water and electrolyte drinks like Gatorade, Liquid IV, and even powdered rehydration mixes. It's not just about hydration anymore, it's about survival. According to FEMA, every person requires At least 1 gallon of water per day per person for drinking and sanitation. That's over 30 gallons a month for a family of 4. And most of us don't have anywhere near that available. No wonder people are beginning to accumulate. But here's the shocking aspect. A recent report from the American Society of Civil Engineers gave U.S. water infrastructure a CE grade. Aging pipes, contaminated water sources, and climate-driven disasters are making clean water less guaranteed than ever. Just last year, major U.S. cities like Jackson, Mississippi, and parts of Texas dealt with multi-day water outages. Picture having to boil water, if you even had it, just to brush your teeth. And it's not just bottled water. Electrolyte drinks are disappearing from shelves, too, especially in areas hit hard by heat waves. They're crucial during power outages when people lose access to AC and fans. Dehydration strikes fast, and these drinks replenish lost minerals way quicker than plain water. TikTok and Reddit prepping communities are filled with people sharing smart storage tricks, stacking water bricks, rotating Gatorade inventory, and even mixing their own electrolyte powder blends to save space. So if you've got an empty corner in your closet or pantry, fill it with water. Not soda, not juice, water. Because when the power's out, or pipes freeze, or taps go dry, bottled water becomes more than a beverage. It becomes a lifeline. And trust me, by the time the shelves are empty, it'll already be too late. Item 10, OTC medications and pain relievers. Let's discuss something most people don't consider until they really require it. Over-the-counter medications like pain relievers, fever reducers, allergy pills, antacids, cold medicines, and even basic first aid supplies are silently disappearing into prepper pantries across the country. And for valid reasons. According to Consumer Healthcare Products Association, over 80% of adults in the U.S. depend on OTC medicines as their primary line of treatment. But here's the problem. Many of these drugs are imported, especially from countries like India and China. And with ongoing global supply chain problems, new regulations, and rising production expenses, the availability of these basic medications is becoming unstable. In early 2024, Business Insider reported noticeable shortages in children's Tylenol and certain cold flu medications due to a combination of panic purchasing and delayed imports. And it's not just the U.S. Canada and parts of Europe faced the same issue last winter. Now, here's the shocking aspect. Some pharmacies began limiting the amount of cold medicine customers could purchase. Picture being told you can only buy 2 packs of ibuprofen during flu season. No wonder Reddit threads and Facebook groups are filled with people creating personal medicine cabinets the size of a small suitcase. Some even label and rotate inventory like it's a grocery store, because for them it is. And it's not paranoia, it's preparation. Think of the last time you had a splitting headache and there was nothing in the house. Now picture that, but in the middle of a blackout snowstorm or emergency. So next time you pass the pharmacy section, perhaps grab that extra box of cold medicines or painkillers, because when something as simple as a fever becomes a challenge, you'll be glad you thought ahead. Item 11, batteries, power banks, and emergency electronics. Picture this. The power's been out for 8 hours, your phone's dead at 8, no flashlight available, and suddenly everything feels a little more frightening. That's exactly why people are accumulating batteries, power banks, flashlights, and even old-school crank radios like never before. We've become so accustomed to constant power, we forget how quickly things can go dark. Literally. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the average American experienced over 5 hours of power outages in 2023. And those numbers are rising due to extreme weather, grid overloads, and natural disasters. And it's not just the weather. As threats of cyber attacks on power grids increase, yes, that's a genuine concern, the idea of losing access to light, communication, and even news updates is beginning to resonate. Reddit prepping communities and Facebook survival groups are filled with people recommending their preferred gear. Lithium batteries, they last longer. Solar-powered power banks. LED lanterns and those hand-crank radios that also charge phones and come with a built-in flashlight. Multi-tools for the modern blackout. Here's a remarkable fact. During the 2021 Texas freeze, power banks sold out across multiple states within 48 hours. Not TVs, not snacks, power. Because in a genuine emergency, it's not about Netflix. It's about knowing what's happening, staying safe, and keeping your family connected. So, if your drawer of dead AA batteries isn't sufficient anymore, you're not alone. And perhaps it's time to build a little power kit of your own. Trust me, when that storm strikes or the grid fails, you'll be glad you didn't wait. Item 12, feminine hygiene products and personal care essentials. Here's something most people won't mention out loud, but it's absolutely crucial. Feminine hygiene products, condoms, and other personal care items are silently becoming one of the most accumulated categories in prepping circles. Why? Because they're essential, non-negotiable, and often completely overlooked until they're suddenly not there. Let's examine the facts. Over 7% of feminine hygiene products sold in the US are imported, mostly from China and Southeast Asia. And with rising global tariffs and shipping delays, expenses have already increased by 15 to 20% over the past year, according to MarketWatch. Some stores have even reported empty shelves in rural areas where restocks are slower. A Reddit thread in R2X Preppers recently went viral after one user shared that their local store restricted tampons to 1 pack per customer. Think about that for a moment. 1 pack for something half the population depends on monthly. It's not just pads and tampons. People are also accumulating condoms, razors, baby wipes, and even deodorant. These aren't just convenience items. They're sanitation tools. And during a crisis, hygiene becomes survival. Prepping groups on Facebook have even begun organizing hygiene bins with backups of everything from menstrual cups to travel-size shampoo. The objective? Never be caught unprepared, especially during a time when dignity and comfort matter more than ever. So, if you're building your emergency kit and skipping over this material, don't. Because in a real-world crisis, staying clean, protected, and prepared isn't just about health. It's about maintaining control in chaos. And currently, smart people are silently ensuring they're covered. Item 13, smartphones, laptops, and tech devices. This one might surprise you, but yes, people are now accumulating smartphones, laptops, and other essential tech devices before the next cost surge hits. Why? Because tech isn't just a luxury anymore, it's a lifeline. And with the threat of fresh tariffs on electronics from China, along with rising production expenses for chips and batteries, experts are warning costs could spike by up to 25% in the next year. That's according to recent reports from MarketWatch and Bloomberg. A Business Insider article from early 2025 even demonstrated that buyers are rushing to grab backup phones and refurbished laptops before the next round of tariffs becomes law. Think about it. In a world where remote work, online banking, digital payments, and communication are essential, losing access to your device is like being disconnected from the modern world. Here's the surprise. Some savvy users on Reddit and Quora are even stocking basic unlocked phones and solar chargers, planning ahead for grid disruptions or emergencies. A second-hand iPhone or Chromebook might sound like overkill now, but if your main device breaks during a crisis and there's a shortage, it could be invaluable. One Redditor expressed it best. If the world goes sideways, I'd rather have a $200 backup phone than regret not having it when everything's gone. So whether it's for prepping backup or just avoiding the next cost increase, tech is becoming the new toilet paper, silently disappearing one box at a time. Item 14, makeup, skincare, and beauty products. Now, this might sound a little unexpected, but yeah, makeup, skincare, and beauty products are absolutely being accumulated, and not just by influencers. Here's why. These aren't just vanity items. For many people, they're part of daily routine, identity, and mental well-being. During stressful times, a bit of lipstick, moisturizer, or a familiar scent can feel comforting. And now with inflation and import expenses rising, these small comforts are turning into high-demand necessities. According to Business Insider, many beauty and skincare brands depend heavily on imported ingredients from Europe and Asia. With rising shipping expenses and tariffs, costs on everyday items like moisturizers, sunscreen, foundation have already risen by 12% or more in just the past year. That's not hype, that's data. On Reddit's Our Female Prepping and Facebook Prepper groups, users are sharing beauty collection photos like treasure displays. Some are even vacuum sealing their favorite skincare items or accumulating long-lasting necessities like mineral powder makeup and solid lotion bars that don't expire quickly. And here's a statistic that might amaze you. During the early 2020 lockdowns, lipstick sales dropped, but skincare sales soared. People turned inward, and what they accumulated wasn't luxury, it was normalcy. Because in a crisis, looking in the mirror and seeing a face you recognize, clean, cared for, and calm, is more powerful than we think. So next time you see your favorite moisturizer on sale, perhaps don't wait. Because while the world becomes louder, a quiet routine might be the most valuable thing you possess. Item 15. A second wave of stockpiling. Let's conclude with a twist. The final item isn't fresh at all. It's the return of the repeat offenders, the things people panic bought during COVID and are now silently accumulating again. We're discussing toilet paper, coffee, pet food, and you guessed it, olive oil. Remember the great toilet paper panic of 2020? Well, it's making a silent comeback. Not the chaos, but the caution. According to MarketWatch, sales of toilet paper and paper towels have seen a noticeable increase since spring 2025, despite no emergency headlines. Why? Because people remember. They experienced that sudden helplessness once, and they're not allowing it to happen again. Coffee is another popular item. Literally. With tariffs and climate disruptions threatening crops in Brazil and Vietnam, costs have increased over 15% in the last year. And let's be honest, no one wants to face a crisis without caffeine. Pet food sales are also increasing. Business Insider reported that nearly 1 in 4 pet owners are now keeping an emergency supply of food, treats, and even kitty litter because pets are family and no one's forgetting them this time around. And then there's olive oil, the liquid treasure of pantries. Droughts in Spain have sent costs soaring worldwide. Some users on Quora even mention they're keeping multiple bottles in cool, dark storage like they're aging wine. The pattern is evident. People are learning from the past. They're watching the news, feeling the pressure, and preparing silently, steadily, and intelligently. Because the first wave taught everyone something. The time to accumulate isn't when it's gone. It's before anyone else notices. So there you have it. 15 everyday items people are silently storing away before the shelves go empty or costs explode. From bottled water to backup phones, it's not just preppers anymore. It's regular people paying attention. And here's the truth. The ones who prepare early, they don't panic later. So take a look around your home. What do you wish you had more of? What would disappear first if things went sideways tomorrow? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If this video opened your eyes or gave you even one smart idea, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve on what to accumulate, prep, or protect, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because the next crisis won't send a warning, but you can still be ready.